And Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Dr. James.
Here.
Dr. Steger.
Here.
Mrs.
Here. We are going to begin immediately with a work session before we do our typical meeting that we would have during our public session. We're just going to go straight into our work session on finances.
Okay. Mr. Long is going to go ahead and pull up the presentation. Also have a hard copy in front of you as well. So tonight, a lot of these slides are going to look familiar, but there's new information in here as well. So we're just going to start with, let's review what our financial status actually is. So if you recall back in October, you approved the 5-year forecast. You will update that again in February. Remember, those dates are different this year. With that 5-year forecast, district is predicted to fall below the cash balance minimum requirement goal of 25% in fiscal year 28. And then in fiscal year 30, you fall off the chart with the cash deficit.
Which again, just is normal in a levy cycle.
A levy cycle with a district like Sycamore, this is normal. And that's why we're talking about this. And thank goodness we do have a 5-year forecast that can look forward so we can plan now, because that cannot happen. And those are the reasons why we're talking. And one of the reasons why you adopted the financial parameters resolution, to reaffirm to this community that the board is committed to capping the growth of those expenditures. So that was done on the same night that you approved the 5-year forecast. And that is 3.5% for all expenditures for this fiscal year through fiscal year 30. And then we've been talking about, okay, we know that we have this financial situation happening in our future. And so what do we need to do as far as levy planning? And we've been talking about that. And calendar year 2026 is that date that we've been targeting in November of 2026. It's really where we've kind of earmarked most of our focus on. Just to recap, the last operating levy that Sycamore had and was approved was November of 2016. So if you go on the ballot in November of 26, that'll be a decade that you've stayed off the ballot. This is time to celebrate. To your point, Mr. Ballot, we've stayed off the ballot double the time that you thought it would last. So that is something to celebrate. The other thing that is kind of different this time is we're not only considering and looking at a levy that would produce revenue from real estate taxes, but also an earned income tax. And should that be something we consider? So this graph is that graph that you're used to seeing. It shows the bars, the revenue is the green bar, the yellow bar is the expenditures, and the green line is your cash. The red line shows that 25% of cash balance that would be necessary of operating expenditures. So that's your board policy, DA, that is shown on the graph as well. And you can see that in 2028, the green line, your cash, falls below the red line. And so that's why we're talking about a levy.
Ask a question that we all know the answer to, but I still feel like to ask. So should the district, our community, our citizens here pass a levy, in 2026. What would happen to that green line?
So some of the charts following are going to show exact pictures, but what happens is when you pass a levy, so we're on a fiscal year, which is July to June. But levies and real estate taxes are paid on a calendar year. So if you would pass a levy in November of 2026, when is the next tax bills? January of 27. So January of 27 is the second half of your fiscal year 2027. So that first fiscal year after you pass, always, you only get half of the revenue in the next fiscal year. And then that following year, fiscal year 28, you would get 100%. And that's just because we're on a fiscal year. Real estate taxes are on a calendar year. So the year following election approval, you get half of the money. And then that second year, you'd get 100% and thereafter.
But your revenue would go up higher than your expenditures, so that would start the trend up of the green line.
That is correct.
You would
Yes.
see a bump and then another bump.
Yes. And we're going to look at those exact numbers. Yes. Okay, so the financial parameters, again, we've talked about that 3.5%, staying within that on an average over these 5 years. And you can see that the green bar shows total expenditure growth. This year, we're expecting an actual negative growth. And then moving forward, that averages out to a 2.9% total expenditures. So depending on what happens from year to year, it is the financial parameters is based on the average. The permanent improvement needs, $4.1 million is what's being annually transferred to the PI fund. And this is just a snapshot of one of the pages of that permanent improvement plan that was done last year. It's built through fiscal year 31, which is 1 year beyond the 5-year forecast. The average need is $5.4 million annually. So the needs that we have detailed in the capital projects plan is more than what the transfer is. So that average need, if you look at it and equate it to millage, it's right about 2 mills annually just for needs.
This is not adding in any additional special projects.
Nope.
Or anything. This is just the needs of the district.
This is just the needs. This is not phase 2, phase 3 of the baseball, softball. This is not additional playgrounds, no scene shops. So this is just the needs.
So is the 2 mills the 4.1 or the 5.4?
The 5.4, which equates to the 2 mills, is just for needs. The other thing I wanted to point out here is when we look at our permanent improvements in our facilities and all of that, the insurable value is over 300 million. 329 million is what we have insured for our property and contents. So now let's start talking about those options for additional revenue. In schools, we have 2 choices for revenues. We either have a real estate tax levy or an income tax. And you can, and with an income tax, you can ask for a traditional or an earned income tax. And most districts have gone to that earned income tax. But if we're looking at what we have here, which the only thing we have here is real estate taxes. We do not have an income tax. 6.5 mills is what was approved the last time you went to the voters. So that's what we've been assuming is 6.5 mils. If it's a combo levy, what it would look like, and I am using 350,000. I do not have exactly what the average value of a home in Sycamore is, but when I did some Google searches, it was right around 350, 400,000. I did reach out to Hamilton County Auditor's Office. This is not a value. It's not something that they're tracking. So this is just.
Yeah, one thing that we looked at in the past was just how much per 100,000. So that.
And your levy
Yeah, so that
language will have that as well.
could start to do the math themselves.
Yes. And what you should do too is have a levy calculator so that people can go out, look at the value that's on the county auditor's website for their home, because that's what you need, not what somebody comes in and appraises your home at, what you're paying taxes on, what's valued at the county auditor's website. So there's a link that you could put here, and people could go out and actually put their own value in. But just to show an example, I'm using 350,000, which I think is a reasonable value to use in this district. To calculate how much a levy costs, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come up with what's the taxable value, which is 35% of your value. And you're going to divide it by 1,000, because 1 mil is $1 for every $1,000 of value, taxable value. So you divide it by 1,000, then you're going to multiply it by the number of mils. So 6.5 mils. So for a $350,000 home, the annual amount that the cost of a 6.5 mil levy would be just under $800. And so that's how you come up with the cost. Now, again, the language on the a levy, the ballot would actually be only looking at 100,000 per 100,000. This would generate for the district a little under $19 million annually, 18.7 million. Again, we talked about you might want to look at a split between operating and PI so that you can have dedicated funds going into a PI levy. We talked about whether that's 2 or 2.5 mils for PI. It looks like it's going to be more like towards that 2.5 mils if you want to do something beyond needs. And then you're operating. The collections, again, like we talked about, Mrs. Bitter, you asked that question, what would happen after it's approved? That first year, which would be fiscal year 27, you'd get half of the money. Then that following year, you'd get the full amount. So now we're going to look at what would it look like if the option was an income tax, an earned income tax. So just to be clear, an earned income tax excludes interest, dividends, capital gains, pensions, disabilities, etc. And I did put a link on this presentation, and anybody can go there, and it links directly to a very detailed report that explained an earned income tax for anyone who's interested. But this is different than a municipal income tax. This is based on residence income, earned income, whereas a municipal income tax is based on where you work, where you're earning your money. So this would just be on our residents, no matter where they work. The total annual revenue predicted is 19 million, although I know Brody talked to the treasurer at King's today, and the information that you get from the Ohio Department of Taxation is not as timely as you would like. So the 19 million is what we've gotten from them right now. When you request that, it's going to be a little different because it's based on, I think it was based on like 2023 information. So I'm only going to assume that that's going to be more. So I believe this is on the conservative side. The delayed collections. This is another part that we're still learning about, but based on a collection sheet that I got from the Department of Taxation, we believe this is the way it would work. So if you passed an income tax in calendar year 2026, you would start collecting in 2027. In fiscal year 2027, you would get about 20% of what that annual amount, that 19 million would be. So that first year you would get 4 million. The second year you would get 77%. So you get further along, but it would take the third fiscal year before you would start receiving 100% of that money. Now the other
Residents paying the full amount and we're only getting 20%?
Well, it is the way that, because you file your taxes, you earn that money and then you file those taxes, a year after that happens. But yes, I'm not sure on how all of this works. There's way more for us to understand. But districts that we have spoken to as well say the delayed collections on this happen a little bit. They're just later than what you see with a real estate tax.
If we look at that, we'll just have to take them into account.
That's correct.
The cash flow.
You would, but I think what you're going to see here is even with that delayed collection, you're still going to be okay. It's going to be tighter, but you would still be okay. Just for comparison, about a third of Ohio school districts have either a traditional or an earned income tax. So not everybody has one, but more and more school districts are thinking about it. Local districts around us who have an income tax, we just put those districts there in case you would want to talk to any of them. Like I mentioned, I know Brody's already talked to Kings, and I believe Chad has been talking to their superintendent as well and plans to do even more of that. So
just it is important to note also that when I'm talking to Kings today, that is a continuing earned income tax. It's not for a certain period of time. So theirs is, and I would think that that's an option to explore as well as that continuing
yes,
earned income tax. And I assume most school districts earned income taxes are a continuing period. So,
Meaning it increases over time.
it does. And you would not have to renew it. Some school districts, their income tax is for a specified period of time. So they would put it on for like 5 years, 10 years, and then you'd have to go back and renew it. And what Brody is mentioning is Kings, theirs is not something that they have to go back to the voters and renew on a continuous basis. It's a continuing levy. So they voted it in once. That's all they have to do.
So for our residents that already live in Montgomery and Juliet, that are paying some kind of city tax, that through the same collection agency, or is this going to have to be, they're going to have to file another form and do a whole nother filing and payments?
I believe, and we're learning more, but I believe there is a different form that they would have to complete for the school district income tax. But as far as paying it, like with our payroll department, like we withhold those taxes and pay the school districts. So if we have residents of Kings, which we do, who work here in our school district, there's a payroll deduction. We deduct that for them and send it to Kings on their behalf. I do believe, though, when they file their taxes, there is some sort of an additional form.
yeah, so it's going to work. So the employer is responsible for setting up that deduction and doing their due diligence, but it is also on the employees to say if they're aware that they have an income tax in the school district that they live in, and it's on them to notify the employer. But when you file your taxes, the Department of Taxation, if you don't show on your tax return that you've paid that based on your W-2, because it's going to be on your W-2, then the Department of Taxation would then, in essence, collect that at that point in time. And that's when we would see that. And for self-employment, that's how that would work as well. But right now, the school district income taxes all through the Department of Taxation. Those City of Blue Ash, Montgomery, those are collected by us, and we actually remit them directly to those entities. The school district income tax, we send it through the Ohio Department of Taxation, and then they disperse it to the districts. So it does, and then that could be for some delayed collection reasons as well. If the self-employment portion, there's no employer that's making those deductions, so it may take until they're actually supposed to file their returns, whether it be quarterly or at the end of the year. So
If once we would pass an earned income tax, the property tax goes away. Oh,
You'd have a combination. So you would still be collecting on the millage that you have currently. And then you basically would just be diversifying your revenue stream. So you would have income tax and real estate tax, because right now in the state of Ohio, school districts have to collect at least 20 mills from real estate. So no matter what you do on the real estate side, if you don't put another tax on, that can only go down to 20. Current law. And then you would have the income tax, which is a side revenue stream.
so when legislators talk about maybe you need to consider an earned income tax because they want to eliminate property tax. How is this really eliminating property tax?
Well, I think that, so let's talk about the elimination of property tax. So we've got a few things going on. There's petitions that are being circulated throughout the state of Ohio, not by our legislators, but by some groups that do want to eliminate property taxes altogether. That we believe has a really good chance of being on the ballot November of 2026, the same time you're considering being on the ballot. So a statewide ballot initiative to eliminate property taxes could be on the ballot in November of 2026. If that happens, then there's going to have to be a whole other plan on how to replace those revenues, which impacts not just school districts, but municipalities, counties, townships, everybody. Boards of health, parks, libraries, everybody.
And that's because, I just want to, because we've had this conversation before in Business Advisory Council, so I just want to say this, that's because this wouldn't cover it. This would only cover like less than 20% of the money that we would need to fund this district.
Yeah.
Take away the property taxes, it's a totally different scenario. This version of what we're doing now wouldn't cover the cost. Wouldn't even come close.
It would not. It's just for the additional amount that we need to keep operating. It's just helping us get some additional money. It's
Which he's-
additional money.
And in addition, it's police, it's fire, it's libraries,
Work collecting.
it's everyone that would be impacted, not just public schools.
Yes.
So if we went on the ballot
Mhm.
for a property tax,
Mhm.
how we typically done that. And then at that same night,
Uh-huh.
we find out
Uh-huh.
that the elimination of property tax
Mhm.
request has gone through.
Mhm.
We will have, we're back to the drawing board, or even,
It's a really crazy scenario, isn't it? Because if, let's say, your voters approve a levy, a real estate tax.
Yeah.
But then the state says, do away with property taxes. Wow, how does that, have you just now approved something that legally you can't collect on? Which is another reason why I think you should really consider the income tax option.
But I also think it's not really clear because I've heard varying viewpoints of whether or not it is even legal, and they will be tied up in court for numerous years of whether or not they can actually just vote and repeal everything that has been taxed and voted in. I don't know that it's legal to just wipe it all away and have no property tax. Well, I think what we heard from one of our legislators was diversify your revenue stream.
Mhm.
And essentially, I think his confidence was you'll have what you have, but this will be going forward, no property tax. But that, I know that can change at a moment's notice, but I
Yeah,
think
Repeat that and elaborate on that. So, because I think it's important for the board to hear that too. So you're saying, explain again why you think we should consider the income tax. How does that help us if they eliminate
if
the tax?
they eliminate property taxes, then you would have at least 1% earned income tax that could not be touched. That would be, if it was approved, that revenue stream comes into you and it's not affected by the whole property tax debacle, if you will.
About the 20, I mean, we would have.
The the
25
additional mills that you're collecting on, which is almost 30 in total, that would be the piece that you would have to worry about, which some of this is attached to debt. So to Chad's point, the attorneys are going to be very busy if something like that happens because you have debt that's associated with a real estate tax.
Hope is from what you said from the legislators is that they would, if that were to occur, they wouldn't touch what's already there. It would just be any new taxes that
I
came.
don't know.
We don't know.
No,
I do think it's fair, though, to say that
we
the
paid for
direction we're
buildings.
getting is there's going to be some kind of property tax reform.
Yes, which we've seen 4 bills that are sitting on the governor's desk right now that,
Something is going to happen.
yes.
We should try to diversify.
I think you should consider it. Absolutely. Because I don't think this is going away. So that's the reason why we're bringing it before you to take a look at. So when we take a look at what are our operating needs, and this is separating the PI, but if we just look at operating and what are those needs, when you take operating revenues versus operating expenditures, how much more are we spending than we're bringing in over that forecasted period? You can see that this year it's about $1.5 million, but it grows to 14.5 million by that 5th year. So if we look at, okay, is it a levy like we're used to or an earned income tax? I put some calculations on here, and Brody and I have a call into bond counsel, which is attorneys that help us with levy language and making sure that we have all of that as correct as we can. But one of the questions we have is, we've talked about a combination levy that would say this many mills for operating and this many mills for PI. Can you do something similar with an earned income tax where you say a portion of this, I'm making this up, 0.25% will be dedicated to permanent improvement? We have that question to ask to find out. But for purposes of this tonight, what we've done is we've just said, okay, if we said 4 mills, so if it's a 6.5 mill levy, 4 mills equates to about 62% of that levy ask for operations, and 38% towards PI. So all I did is I took the 62% of the total revenue that would come in. I also looked at, if we go back to when that, because remember it's delayed when you receive it. So if I put that delayed collection percentage in there, what would it look like with a real estate tax levy versus an earned income tax levy. And where would you be? You would still, even with delayed collections, you'd still be okay. And you can see that the revenue piece of this is not that far off. So,
And we did have a great question the other night at SAC, regards to this when we were talking about it, about why do we want to designate how much goes to PI and how much goes to operating? Like, why not just go for operating and just continuing to do the transfer as we set up? And because it's kind of the opinion that it's nice to designate those funds towards PI so that you know this is just strictly designated towards the PI, rather than it all into operating or general fund and having to do that transfer every year.
and then it would be an annual decision by every board moving forward on what that amount is. It's just a different way of looking at it.
Just go into a reserve for future permanent.
Correct.
So that could actually change each year. The permanent improvement.
If you didn't have a designation, let's say that we find out from the attorneys that no, you can't designate a portion of the earned income tax to go into PI fund, that it's all going to be 1%, it goes into your general fund, and then you are going to transfer that money. If it's not designated, it's up to the board to do that transfer every year and whatever is decided.
Yeah, I was talking about though, if it's a real estate tax and
It is.
you have a designated PI, then it has to stay
Yes,
that way.
that is correct. Yes. Mhm.
And you can kind of hear the power of it all staying and operating is the board has the decision-making power. Where you lose is you do not have a dedicated fund for your bricks and mortar and the things that you have to upkeep. So
Yeah.
you kind of have the flexibility and fluidity versus you want to have a dedicated fund. And that's a decision-making point.
Right.
But we do have, I mean, we still budget for it every year and
Currently, yes.
we still,
Yep.
it might not be done like that on a levy, but we do it. And we've been doing it. We say 4.1 million for PI every year. We designate it. We require the treasurer to do that. We work with our operations team and make that happen. That's what the board has done.
But I think one of the things that I see as different is if you don't spend that money, you can have money for projects as they come along that's sitting in reserves for a phase 2 or for a senior.
Yeah.
Because now, if we do that, that comes strictly out of our operating budget, total operating budget for the year. So I agree, we're very fluid with it and you can vote that, but if you want to do something special above and beyond, no funds for that.
I do think Mrs. Bitter makes a good point that this is another celebratory point. I've worked in districts where they don't dedicate the funds and districts fall apart. This board, I've been here 14 years and all 14 years, there have been dedicated funds to materials, supplies, really upkeep of our facilities. And that's why our facilities are in a sustainable model. Like we're not seeing our buildings falling apart after 25, 30 years. That really shouldn't be happening. And if you are, it means you're not upkeeping your assets. And I'm thinking, Mr. Burson may have said it at the SAC meeting, but he threw out a number, I think, of our roofing, like just total roof cost replacement, and it was an unreal number. I mean, just roof square feet. We had to replace them all one time. It was
Through FY31 was like 6.6 or 6.8.
That's what we have planned.
That's probably, that's just to do what we have planned. I think the total value is like
Roofing every year.
30 plus million. I mean,
Yes.
it's unreal.
Mrs. Lucken, but looking at this, so 4 years though, you would be back on the ballot. There would be a need to be back on the ballot under this scenario.
Well, the cash itself, though, you are growing the cash each year, but you would be able to sustain it through at least that 5 years. So I know that we had talked about, we want to make at least a 5-year commitment and that would do it. Yes. Mhm.
You don't have to make a commitment is what I thought I heard you say, that you don't have to put a time limit on.
So on the income tax though, or the real estate tax, you would want, I believe you would want to do like you've done in the past where you would say, we believe that this request would give us the additional revenue for operations before we'd have to come back for
We have to.
5 years.
I mean, it's nothing legal, but it's our
Now,
word that, we're gonna stretch this to 5 years.
So you're saying, just so I understand, you're saying if we did the earned income tax, we would say, we would give a time parameter, we would say 5 years.
I think either one.
I think with either one of these, I think we have to look at a scenario so that we can make a commitment to our community that we feel confident it'll be a 5 year before we're back on the ballot.
This fall.
But either way, the operating one would, I mean, we would have to say, we would do that because that's what we do. We say
There are
5 year.
scenarios would
Cover
give you that.
But if we wanted, I guess my real question then is, for the earned income tax, you have to say it on the ballot that it's for 5 years, or
You can say, like Mr. Burson mentioned, you can say it's a continuing period of time.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to put a limit. No.
I would never suggest that.
Just like all of the levies we've had are all continual levies.
Yes.
We don't, yeah,
yeah, I just
We've
wanted to
never-
make sure.
never done one that's just
Yep.
So
for the buildings.
yes, the buildings are tied to debt and they expire when your debt.
Yeah.
It's finished. So levy considerations and timing, if you're looking at a November election, there's 100-day deadline, which depending on whether you're doing an income tax or a property tax ask, you're either going to file things with your county auditor or with the state tax commissioner. And then in 90 days before the ballot, so August 7th of 2026, you would have to file everything, all of the documents with the County Board of Elections to make sure that you're on the ballot.
I
So-
believe, and we've done this in the past, and I would highly recommend that if we're going to go on the ballot, prior to school being out, the board adopts a resolution in May. Because once the community disappears for the summer,
Yeah.
it just doesn't.
They lose interest.
They lose interest. So I think we need to,
Well, then it looks like we're.
because then you'll also have time to get the levy committee together and all that. So I think although we have until July, I think we really need to make a decision probably February, March, if we're going to do this,
Mhm.
and then make a resolution probably April, May.
That timeline seems reasonable because I agree, you would not want to wait until that last minute. The next slide, I thought it was important for you to have your election history. And there's only, and I will say, this is another celebration. There's only one defeat on this sheet, and that was over 20 years ago. So the last operations levy in 2016 passed by 61%. You have a community which loves its schools. And so I have no reason to believe that you would not be able to be successful. The story is a good story. It'll be 10 years. It's a reasonable ask. I think you have a good story as well. The next sheet is just showing you the tax rates. This is our total tax rates if you want to see what's been voted in and our inside millage versus what we're collecting, which is a little over 25 mils for operations. Then with the bond levies, that takes us up to a little under 29 mils. The chart to the right are those comparable school districts that we determined through the negotiations process. Actually, what are those school districts that we mostly compare ourselves to in the region? So you can see that our millage rate is below the average, and we are just above Indian Hill when you look at all of those school districts. And then the next page, I wanted to include the chart for all Hamilton County schools. You can see where we fall. We're well below the average there and not even in the middle. We're on the low end when it comes to the millage rates for our residents. So it's an affordable place to live when it comes to the millage rates. Legislative concerns, we've talked about this, but as far as Sycamore goes, the things that will impact us happening on a state level really is the limited increase in revenue that you can receive from inside millage. So if you go back to that chart before, and you see that, how many mills do we get for inside millage? 4.63 mills. So those 4.63 mills currently, if your valuation goes up by 24%, you collect the increase, the full 24% on those mills. What will happen now if the governor signs the legislation? Those 4.63 mills will be limited to inflation, so more like 3%. No matter what the valuation increases in our school district, we will be held to an inflationary rate, but still get some growth, but it'll be capped. The other part that impacts us is the authority of the County Budget Commission. They're expanding that authority and will take away a school board's authority on what you can and can't say on how you want to spend your money. I will say that is only on millage rates. So again, if you're thinking about an income tax, your county budget commission has nothing to say on an income tax. So they can't come to you and say, your balances are excessive, or, your 5-year forecast, we believe you're spending too much money, so we're going to cut your millage rate. They have no control over that income tax. And I'm not saying that Hamilton County would do that, but it is more ability. They are getting more ability to do that. And let's see. And then next steps, community engagement. And Chad, I put facts here because that's all we can discuss, or what are the facts. We have a draft on the financial prospectus, a draft on the quality profile, which will complement each other, which will help with that community engagement and telling that story. I put listening sessions, and then just wherever people gather, you just need to be ready to share that story. And then finalize your levy request whenever you determine that's the best time to do that, and continue the engagement. Questions? And
Any definitive, the financial perspective and the quality profile?
So the goal is for the financial prospectus would be ready to be mailed out first part of January. And I'm looking at Jessica, I believe the quality profile is right around that same time.
It's close.
Okay.
I think Jenny, Brody, Chad, and I will have to collaborate on how we're gonna put that out to make sure that it's cohesive.
Yes.
But I think the same graphic designers can work on both, so it'll probably be cohesive naturally, but yes, it's almost done. So it's just now out the rest of the week, so wait a little bit to additional revisions.
Any other questions? You're welcome.
I would recommend probably an organizational meeting in January. We set some dates to really take this, to put the financial retreat or workshops onto our board calendar in January and February, so that we can start to have this conversation and make a decision on which route we're going and when we're going to do it. I just want to make sure we don't wait too long.
I would suggest too that they be work sessions or retreats, whatever. But like today, being able to start at 5:30.
Yeah.
Is very helpful. You know, the later it gets in the evening,
Yes.
not quite as sharp,
Mm-hmm.
but if we can get those on the calendar, that would be great.
All right.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to enter into executive session to consider the employment, compensation, dismissal, or discipline of a public employee per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1, and to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with the public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. That, hold on. Sorry, everyone. That's what my sheet says. But I have to make sure I'm right. That's it.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant,
Yep.
for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. We will now enter into executive session and we will come back into public session at 7 PM. Please rise for the. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the beginning of each meeting, we like to go over our district's mission and vision. Our mission is to create a culture of academic excellence through inclusive and innovative learning opportunities for the whole child. And our vision is to empower all learners to reach their full potential in a globally competitive world. Can I please get a motion and a second to amend the agenda to approval and appointment of Brody Burson as interim treasurer and corresponding employment contract, for the approval of an extension of Brody Burson's assistant treasurer contract for 2 years starting August 1st, 2026, and for the approval of an amendment to the superintendent's employment contract.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. Steger. Aye. Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your second. Before we start, I just wanted to say that there is a part of the meeting minutes where we did not add your statement, Mrs. Logan, that you gave, and I would like that to be added
Okay.
to the meeting minutes.
Can do
I
that.
think that was an important message that you shared.
Mhm.
I would like to add that, please.
Can do that.
You all agree?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Good idea. Thank you.
Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
This is better.
Aye. Sorry. Just talking, sorry. Okay. Can I please get a motion and a second? Here. So I just do this one. For the approval and appointment of Brody Burson as interim treasurer and his corresponding employment contract.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the extension of Brody Burson's Assistant Treasurer contract for 2 years, starting on August 1st, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of the amendment to the superintendent's employment contract?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion, and thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. The next item on the agenda is a very important part of our evening. We have a commendation for Mr. Michael Miller, our Transportation Director.
Which stand here?
Over here.
Over here would be great.
This is.
There's the camera is kind of in the middle of the room, so.
Yeah.
Good evening, Sycamore School Board and all of the members of Sycamore School family. My name is Karen Brownlee. I'm your state representative for the grade 28, which includes Sycamore, Princeton. It includes Deer Park, much of Loveland, and Winton Woods school districts. I have a lot of love to go around to all of the schools, but I am a little bit biased because I'm a parent, a very proud parent of 3 Sycamore graduates. So to share a very quick snapshot about myself, my background is as a mental health therapist with kids and families, mostly in schools. And I'm also a graduate of public schools, and I love public schools. I think they're the cornerstone of democracy. I will always fight for public schools to do what's best for our community, for our parents, for our kids, and for the people who work in the schools. So thank you guys for all of the work that you do. And enough about me, on to Mr. Miller. It's my great honor tonight to present this commendation to Mr. Michael Miller on being named, this is a bit of a mouthful, so I'm gonna have to read this, the 2025 Outstanding Transportation Director of the Year by the Ohio Association of School Business Officials Foundation for School Business Management. We're all very proud of your work, and we appreciate your efforts to create such a wonderful transportation department that goes above and beyond to ensure the health, the safety, and the timeliness of our students. I have quite a bit of experience over the years with Sycamore Schools and the transportation department, so I want to personally thank you for your leadership in it. And this is where I'm going to go a little bit off script, if it's okay with you. Sycamore school transportation workers, they don't just get kids to and from. They care for the kids. They comfort parents when we put our little kindergartners on that first bus going off to school. And they support them in so many ways, including as a role model on how to behave in a public setting, right? And how to act towards one another. And so your department really does go above and beyond to help our community. I have a few examples. One is, of course, innovating and making sure you guys communicate out to the parents. When our kids come home late, we worry. We don't know there's a traffic accident, but you guys do. So letting us know and making sure that our community is informed is really, it's really incredible. Second, the last two are very personal examples. As the parent, sometimes our kids, forget stuff. And through one of your workers spent many phone conversations and many searches on a bus. When my child came home from a track meet extremely late at night, the phone slipped out of the pocket. It wedged between the seat and the wall of the bus. And that worker took the time and the energy to make sure my kid got their phone back, because it was a very expensive loss for my child to have to cover. And they were really scared. Because I wasn't going to pay for it. The last example I have, and I'm sure you guys, I know you will remember this very well. It was recent, where you worked with the administration to get a team to go to Chicago to pick up a bunch of kids
who got rerouted on their planes from the Spanish trip. And that was an incredible testament, not only to your work, but to the work of the entire Sycamore community. I was absolutely blown away by that. So thank you so much. I know there are so many more examples out there of sort of this heroism, big and small, by the transportation department at Sycamore. And with that, it's my great privilege to present this commendation to Mr. Miller for being such an important part of the Sycamore community, even though most of your work is unsung. So go Waves.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is as everybody here should or knows, this is my 37th year in public education. And I've spent 12 of those 37 years at Sycamore and could not even imagine doing it anywhere else. I sincerely thank Superintendent Lewis, members of the Board of Education, Mr. Lovell, for once in my life, as Chad will probably tell you, never happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to add real briefly, I have a lot of experience riding Sycamore buses. In my 30+ years in the district, I was probably on a school bus twice a week, at least, taking kids to different events and everything. And I don't know if people appreciate the professionalism of our bus drivers, the appreciate the effort that our bus drivers put into it. There have been times when we didn't have enough bus drivers and we've got a field trip coming in to make sure that we got there. Mike drove one of our buses one day. All the boys in maintenance were out driving buses one day and picking kids up and everything like that and making sure kids got to where they needed to be. And you just don't see that. And I think that's a testament to your work, and that's a testament to their work ethic that they're that committed to making sure our district and our people get to where they need to go. So congratulations, a well-deserved honor there.
Thank you.
So
I have one thing. When you talk about our mechanics are out and my office staff is out, we are under nationwide school bus driver shortage. And that's no secret. And desperate times, I don't want to say call for desperate measures, but I appreciate this so much, but this goes to, this includes our education. One particular member who he's a retired teacher, but he also continues to volunteer to coach. He is also a band certified driver. So there were a few times last school year where I called on Mr. Harris because the student that I needed picked up happened to be in the vicinity of where he is currently employed. So he would go get that student for me, take that student to school. He would end his school day, he would go back, pick up that student and bring the van back. That is a true testament of the teamwork that goes on in the single.
And Representative Brownlee, thank you for being here and taking time out of your important schedule to come to a school board meeting and recognize really one of our unsung heroes that you're right, his efforts don't get recognized all the time, every day, except for by people that are interacting with him every single day. So for you to take time out of your schedule with all the things that we know are going on at the state level, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you as a community member and as a parent, but also for you fighting for public schools. So thank you for that.
Right, we're going to have some more recognition this evening to our fellow board member, Dr. Lynn Steger, and to our treasurer and CFO, Jenny Logan.
I think anytime that we have a team member departing us and departing us over here as well, we like to make sure that we show our gratitude to both of you. And you both have made an impact on all of us as leaders, but also on this district. And, that legacy will be felt. And we appreciate, Dr. Steger, your service, because I think people do not realize the sacrifices that people make to join a school board. And the amount of community pressure and input and feedback that you get, regardless if you ask for it or not. So I always appreciate your humility, your candor, your ability to sometimes just make us laugh when things feel heavy. And we need that sometimes. So I know that we will remember that. Mrs. Logan, you've really come in and helped us be more efficient, more effective, better at our jobs. You've taught us all a lot. You've taught us all about professionalism, and certainly Brody would not, Mr. Burson wouldn't be ready for the position that he's stepping into without your guidance. And I'm sure he's very thankful every day that he came here to learn from someone that is a state renowned treasurer. So I'm glad to know that you won't be leaving the profession, that you'll still be connecting with other treasurers and potentially stepping in and training new treasurers, because Mr. Miller, just like a nationwide transportation shortage, we have a treasurer shortage that people are not stepping up to do that role. So I can't think of anybody better to train those people than you. So I'll certainly let any board members speak, and then we may or may not have a nice gift for both.
I would just, I would like to say that both of you have been very important colleagues. And I will not be saying goodbye to you. I will be reaching out and talking with you and asking you questions, because sitting here in this board, I've needed both of you as a colleague, as a friend, and you will be missed by me for sure. There will be a void. So thank you for everything. Thank you for your hard work, your professionalism, your grace. Thank you. Sorry to make you cry.
Oh, you're making me just throw in one of them. I don't know why they're especially back.
Oh, boy.
I don't know why.
I thought you were gonna give him a ring. My goodness.
Yeah, they wanted a ring.
Gosh.
Those rings, they might.
Oh, my goodness. Holy schmoly. I can't even pick it up. It's so big. Are we? Oh. Okay. Do you want me to read it to you? Sure. Says Sycamore Community Schools, our logo. It says, presented to Dr. Lynn Steger in appreciation of your dedicated service and leadership on the Sycamore Community Schools Board of Education, 2021 through 2025. Thank you.
Very welcome. That's from all of us.
Get the ring. Just kidding.
I love you, Victor. I might have maybe some wine glass.
There is beverage. There is beverage. Beverage, substance. Beverage.
Let's see. Oh, isn't that nice? That's so.
Oh,
Oh, that's nice.
Got Sycamore
a
Community.
water decanter. That's right.
Water.
Only for water.
Water.
You could have sparkling water, you could have
Sparkling?
still water,
Sparkling
really,
water.
any kind of water you like.
Yeah.
Very nice. I just don't want to break anything. Oh, and it has my initial. Oh, so nobody's allowed to see.
That's right. Know whose it is.
That's very nice. Thank
Mr.
you.
Logan, keep your hands off.
So I have a quick question. I actually wrote something. Can I read it now?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, so I still write on paper and pencil, so those of you who don't know me, I also type it up after I write it on, in my notebook. So that's just kind of how I like to operate. So I'll read it off the paper because that's more my speed right now. Okay, tonight marks my last official meeting as a member of the Sycamore School Board. I want to take a moment to say thank you, as evidenced by my merci, 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 merci shirt, to the community for trusting me in this role. Over the past several years, I have gotten to know many people in our community and in the district. It has been an honor. I am fortunate to have started this journey with you, Sarah Bitter,
someone who I did not know prior to my time on the board, and someone who I now consider a friend. I have great respect for her, and the district is lucky to have her. So thank you, Sarah. To Jenny Logan, thank you for coming out of retirement to join our district. As we depart at the same time, I'm grateful that our paths have crossed, and I wish you much happiness on your next adventure. Recently, I have been reflecting on my own education, and for those of you who don't know, it's a lot of time since I have spent decades as a student, an educator, and a researcher. I would like to touch on the idea that education is made up in the moments between state requirements and tests. Teacher who has the class complete a special project, like my own second grade teacher who has learned how to bake bread. The friends who give you hugs when they cheer you on or lift you up when you need support. The administrators who fully embrace spirit days and welcome you with a warm smile. I know some of you love those pajama days out there. And these are the memories that we as students carry with us for a lifetime. Keep focusing on the in-between moments and know that you have made a difference and have had an impact on those around you. Embrace the arts and humanities, embrace our visual and performing arts, embrace our foreign language programs, embrace our libraries and reading nooks. Igniting the spark of enthusiasm for learning is priceless. So thank you all, Sycamore community.
Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Logan, do we have any public participation this evening?
No one signed up for public participation this evening.
Okay. We will move into our discussion of policy.
Yay.
First read.
It's very exciting, as usual. Thank you.
It is exciting. Don't ever downplay seeing how exciting it is.
Yes. So we're going to start off. I have a couple things on here. The first one is a first read of 3 Neola policies. There's actually 5 total policies in this collection that I'm going to speak about. It's the employment contract language in Neola. So 1520 is employment of administrators, 4120 is the employment of classified staff, 4124 is employment contract. There's also some 3000s professional staff contract as well. The reason those aren't listed right there is because the 3000s have already come for a first read and a second read. The reason that I'm putting these up here for a first read and subsequently will come for a second read for the board is because in reflection, as we start to head into the spring, and I was thinking about the hiring season and knowing that our transition with these policies would come in June, it actually made much more sense to me that we would bring these policies forward and have them actually set in place prior to the hiring season and issuing of contracts. That way, we're not issuing contracts this year under old board policy. They would be issued under the new policy. And so similar to some of the other Neola policies that we've brought forward sooner than the mass adoption, I'm bringing these forward for a first read for the board and the community tonight. And I'll bring those back at the next meeting in January for a second read. Any questions about that?
So one of the things I said to Mr. Lovell during the meeting was these policies get rid of my annoying questions that I've asked over time about some of the questions I had about employment of people and certification, et cetera, et cetera. All the annoying questions you guys know I've asked about things, they're answered in these policies. So I was very happy with them.
And I let Dr. Steger know there's no annoying questions. They're actually all really good questions. And you're absolutely right. And one of the things that if you were to pull up the OSBA policies and the Neola policies, there's nothing in the Neola policies that is unique. It just really defines Ohio Revised Code and what we can and can't do. The other thing that's really important to understand and remember is that our collective bargaining agreements actually drive our contract status, meaning how we issue contracts. So the policies themselves are just really formatted in Ohio Revised Code, but we do lean on our collective bargaining agreements to actually look at how we're issuing our contracts.
So I guess you kind of answered the question that I was going to ask, making sure that, like what was the major difference between these and OSBA? I can see that they're very explicit in what they say you need to.
Yep.
But so When you have these types of policies, are you saying that they have to be, Neola looks at our collective bargaining agreement and then says, okay, they're okay, or they don't have to do that?
Yeah, great question. Good clarification. So you'll notice on a lot of Neola policies that the Neola policy at the very bottom of it might delineate and say that you basically defer to the collective bargaining agreement for anything that would change. The collective bargaining agreement language supersedes board policy. And so it obviously should follow Ohio Revised Code, and it does, but how that operates and how that happens might be different. For instance, our collective bargaining agreement for our classified staff says that we do not issue contracts. And so that would supersede our ability to actually give a formal contract to them, a paper pencil, like here's a contract. So that's just an operational procedure how we do, but we issue contracts to our exempt, administrative, and certified teachers. And don't ask me why, I don't know.
I mean, are there, I guess in general though, are there any areas of this policy that really are not relevant because the collective bargaining agreement would undo it?
No,
I mean, is there anything?
there's not. No.
So it's pretty
It is.
accurate.
Yep.
And also where it says, sorry, Mr. Lewis, I'm just gonna pull this one out where it says the superintendent shall prepare administrative guidelines. Just know that Neola's on it with the policy committee.
Yeah.
Do that. It's not, you don't have to create the guidelines.
We'll do that on his
Thank you.
behalf.
Very, thank you.
Yes, yes.
You're gonna do that over the winter break, right?
That is good point to bring up. As we work through the transition with Neola, we focus on all the policies first, get those in place, get those adopted, and then subsequently, we're going to be working on those administrative guidelines as well.
And can you remind the board, and again, I believe I know the answer to this question, but we don't have to approve the guidelines, right?
That's correct.
That's the board policy.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
But if I wanted to look at the board about the guidelines, I would just eventually just go online and anyone can find the guidelines and the board policy.
So the way it will work is on the board doc site, how the community or you all would go get board policy. You would select the board policy from the upper left-hand corner. There'll be a toggle that will say policy admin guidelines. And then you just select those. So any community member would be able to see what is the guideline, how does that actually operate within the system.
One quick question.
Mhm.
With the student handbook, is there going to be time for the adoption of the new policies to go into the student handbook or partially?
Ms. Lawson, do you want to speak?
I'm happy to speak to that. It is a tricky timeline.
Right.
So I think probably removing specific reference to specific old policy from our handbooks will be important while still noting to our families in the handbooks in general where they go to find policy on our website.
Perfect.
Will probably be what's important in this interesting transition year.
Because the timeline's tight. In
Yep.
case the public didn't realize it.
Yep.
It's very tight.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
good question.
I do want to, as we're talking about this first read here, and because we're moving these policies forward outside of the transition timeline, there was we recently created a web page, a landing page for policy. So if you were on our Sycamore webpage previously, you would click board policy and it would take you to board docs. One of the things that we were trying to navigate and figure out is we've adopted these Neola policies. How do we make that clear for families so that they can see those? And then also delineate that in the event that there is a competing policy between OSBA and Neola, that the Neola policies that have been adopted will take precedent. And so what we did was we created a new web page. And when you go to that web page, it actually outlines the intent of policy, what is policy, and then also has a disclaimer to what I just said. And then at the bottom, it's going to list one by one the adopted Neola policies that you all have adopted. And then I've created a folder and a link that you can click on and people can access those policies by PDF. It also has a button there, obviously, to take you to the regular policies. But the intent with that was to be as transparent as we can with our community about here are those policies that have been adopted that might not be in congruence with the policies that are actually in the policy manual. We just have to get to June. That's what I keep saying. If we can get to June, then everything will be transitioned over to that. And so the next piece of this, obviously there's a first read of the 4,000s and a second read of the 6,000s. The 4,000s are our classified policies. The 6,000s are second read of our finance policies. As you remember, we kind of, we accelerated those a bit to get those in before Miss Logan left here, Sycamore, but being able to give her an opportunity to answer any questions. Not that Mr. Burson couldn't do that, but I know Miss Logan had sat through a lot of those meetings with us to transition those. But I just wanted to present those to you. I'm not going to go through them all, but I also just wanted to ask you as well. This is kind of a temperature check. A mid-policy transition, how's it going? Do you feel like you're getting the information that you need? Could I be doing something different? My team be doing something different to present the policies? Open to feedback, open to changing how we're doing things. I just want to make sure that we're all feeling confident and comfortable as we keep this work moving. I know that I tend to like a quick pace to try to keep this stuff going, but I also recognize that policy work is the board's work. And so I want to make sure that you're not feeling uncomfortable with how things are going.
So one thing about the quick pace that Mr. Lovell's not telling you is that he was in a policy meeting all day last week. It's not just a quick pace, it's a lot of work. That's not just he's reading stuff. There's somebody, Norm's coming in.
Neil and Norm's with us.
Neil and Norm is with the district. So just know that it's not just a quick pace like of Mr. Lovell going through like, oh, let's just do this. It's a group of people who sat there all day. Doing the work. And then Dr. James and I came in for the,
Policy meeting.
And they'd already been there all day and they were.
Yeah, we have spent significant number of hours. I appreciate that. I think it's more, sometimes I feel like I'm not feeding you what you need. So I want to make sure I'm giving you the information that you need, because ultimately you're going to vote on these and you're going to approve these. So, and you don't have to say anything now if you can't think of anything, but you can reach out and contact me. And if there's something different.
Just from a timing standpoint, this is a lot of reading. So we can get a week or 2 week notice of this is what's going to be on the agenda in a separate email. Link to the actual policies that we can open up and read. It's just very difficult to get them on a Monday or a Friday before and try to get through all this before a board meeting with regular life.
Okay. So help me, so just make sure what I can do.
I mean, the way we have, before we.
Sure.
Like right now, the way we have it is we have access, we all have an account and we have access to the draft policies. And the way you've been doing it, I kind of do agree a little bit with Mr. Ballard in the, like, we knew the 6,000s were coming because we kind of requested that as a board for slogan, and you had brought that up. That was, based off of your advice. But then we got the 4,000s, and that was just the first read. But it would, I think you need to, I agree with Mr. Ballon, and like, you need to kind of like really like, hello, like 2 weeks in advance, tell us. You need to get on this, and you may have to send like a couple emails.
Or develop a calendar that says January, 8th or whatever, we're going to do 5,000s. February, we're going to do this, whatever number, and remind us of
Like,
that.
keep reminding us, like, please read 5,000s, like, that way you're at least giving us a reminder of what's coming up down the pike. But for me, I'm just speaking for myself, I don't mind having them on Word docs the way they are. And clicking on them, because I will tell you that I actually just print, I like to read things on paper, so I print every one of them out. As like, it's a lot of printing, but I do it. And then I read them that way. Everyone has a different way. Are you saying you want to have like?
No, I'm okay with going into Word docs to actually look at the access to it.
Just need to know to go in.
No.
Okay. So that's really good feedback. So what I can do is I have a planning sheet that we're working off of that we don't know the pace of the policies that we're hitting. So we're on 5,000s now, but we don't know how many meetings that's going to take. What I can do is I can actually inform you that at the next 2 policy transition meetings, we're working on the 5,000s, these policies. So then that will give you a heads up of what's going to be coming at the meeting. And then obviously during agenda planning, you'll know what's going there. 5,000s is like 3 or 4 of our meetings because it's all student policies. So it's been a lot, but no, it's really good feedback.
It's more of a kind of have to.
It's a lot.
You have to.
It's a lot to read.
It's a lot.
And, whoever's on the policy committee next time too.
Mhm.
Remember, could maybe send out emails too.
Yep.
To help you, right? But
Yeah, we can figure it out.
it's more of just it's time goes by so quickly. And I think for all of us, the more reminders we have, the better.
Yep.
Mrs. Bitter, if you do need them in print form, let us know. We can print them out for you and then provide them to you. Like, you stop by the office multiple times a week, so I wouldn't want you to waste your time printing them out. We can get that done.
I could do that for anybody.
Yeah, and anybody else that needs it, happy to do it.
Mhm.
But then just in general, always,
Mhm.
just if there's so, like, always let us know if there's something that's like clearly different.
Yes.
Clearly, like,
Yep.
it's different than what we're used to. It's something that is a change. That would always be helpful that you just keep doing. And I know you've been doing that, where you're highlighting those for us and
Yep.
providing us the actual link to it so that we can just know.
That's great feedback. We didn't have any in the 4,000s, but I will tell you with the 5,000s, we have a few of those coming.
Yeah.
And so we'll definitely highlight those for you so that you're aware of them. But this is really good feedback for me. And again, I just want to make sure that you're getting the information that you need so I can tailor our workflow to make sure that you're getting that. So that's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so then we have covered our discussions of first read. Any word, am I okay to move on to section D? All right. Can I get a motion and a second for the Gallup proposal?
I moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballot, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, this is a proposal, and I brought out my old business operations skills. They brought forward some costs, and I said, you know, what would really be great is if we could have a 1 year with an option for a 2 year, all locked at the same price. Because she's like, well, normally we escalate the price by 5%. I said, well, I don't want that 5%. I just want a locked price for 3 years. So we've got that. We've got essentially a price for 3 years. And that cost is to really change our culture and climate survey to a very research-based, normed process. And Gallup is a renowned and recognized company that has been doing this. And it's been, if you remember, we decided to not do one this past year, but this is part of our strategic plan. And this would allow us to get feedback from our staff, our community, and our students. And I think a lot of people only do staff or do one of those. I think it's valuable for us that we do care about all those stakeholders and we want to hear from them. So this will be ready to go in January, and that we will continue to do it annually in January. So this would take the place of our past kind of processes to try to get to a culture and climate survey. And they knew exactly what I wanted. They knew exactly what the process would be. And it'll give us tremendous data about our community and what they desire or think about our school district. So.
And not only providing the data, but also providing some suggestions, recommendations, some professional development that might help us to improve in the areas where improvement is needed.
Continuous improvement mindset, right?
I like that.
That's what we want to be.
Yeah, and I like the idea of using the same company for multiple years because we've changed in the past, which kind of reset the baseline every time. So I do think there is value in a multiple year look, because that does show, as Dr. James was saying, improvement.
And it will be anonymous. It is not, they do not collect that information and we don't control it. It goes straight to Gallup and we will get access to our dashboard, which will have basically the end product data. It won't be the raw data, the raw information that is submitted as part of the process. So the only thing that will help us is, I want to say, identifiers. And when I say that, it's like, if we want to know how did our transportation department feel from a staff standpoint, we will be able to segregate the data to break down just that department so we can see if, let's say that 75% of our staff feel really good about what's going on and we saw an outlier and there was a department that was low, we would want to look at that and find out why.
Can you also break it down in terms of the parents, what grade levels their children are?
I believe that will be a part of the parent and it'll go all the way down to buildings. Be able to know what building they go to.
So I'm gonna sound like a broken record here because I've said this over and over again. Part of the problem I have with the proposal is there's no understanding on what kind of an institutional review board would be used for student data and accessing student information, permission slips, what they're looking for, those kinds of things they should have included in the proposal. I was a little disappointed in that. And one other thing that was a little disappointing is the fact that they kept Stratford Academy in there and didn't even do a find and replace for Sycamore schools in their proposals. I found it to be slightly unprofessional. So I would worry about the data being useful if they can't even give you a proposal that's correct. And maybe, I was thinking maybe it could be done by a local firm, perhaps in a better way, at a less expensive, because that's about the amount to educate 5 children per year to do research. So I don't know, were just some thought as I was going through it. So I was just a little disappointed and I'm very protective of student data and I know what needs to be done from federal law to protect students.
So maybe you can, first of all, we haven't approved this yet.
Right.
So can you share where you think it should have said what you would want it to say? That way we can have that
In
conversation.
the whole student section, it doesn't tell you how they're gonna measure for student success. It says that they're going to survey the students to build engagement and foster enthusiasm. But I don't know how they're doing this research and I don't know how they're getting the parents involved. It just talks about the completions of their surveys and what types of questions they're going to ask, but not how they're going to get to the point of being allowed to be asking those questions of the students, which is where I was a pain on the policy stuff too, I know, over the past couple of years. It just tells you what they're looking for, not the process of.
I will say, that it's a very valid point that you bring up often because we care very much about student privacy. But in general, when you look at the actual contract, the language of the contract itself, I did generally feel comfortable with the confidentiality agreement that they have in the contract itself, which is on the second attachment. Yeah. And I do also feel, it talks about section 18, client data protection clause they have in there. So although the proposal itself doesn't go into that great detail, that isn't necessarily where it would be. The protections wouldn't necessarily be there. So I just want to say that.
No, I was gonna say, but from a research perspective, it should be in the proposal. So,
Okay,
sorry.
And then I will say, I'm speaking just on behalf of myself here, I do feel, I do like the idea that it's Gallup. I think it's a reputable company that has a good name recognition, and I think people will hopefully trust it because hopefully they will trust that the information that they provide will be anonymous. And it's not that when we did it in the past, it wasn't confidential. It was confidential when we did it in the past too, but we always want to make sure that people feel comfortable filling out the surveys, right?
And if the board feels uncomfortable, we don't have to do a student survey. It would be I would likely go 7 through 12 only. But if the board feels uncomfortable and concerned about that, we can eliminate the student survey and not do it. And that would be one way to be comfortable with the contract.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that
I
from the
think-
standpoint of, I know we value student response.
Right.
Is it
But if you feel uncomfortable,
Is it possible for us to, I am not the lawyer for this board, but I feel comfortable with what I read. But is it possible for us to pass it contingent on the lawyer, our board counsel just reviews those terms and feels comfortable that it protects student privacy?
Also, it needs to follow some sort of institutional review board process to make sure that parents are being informed, et cetera. There has to be a process in place so that the students are not being, unless they're over the age of 18, contacted by an outside firm.
But I think if our lawyer reads that, whatever lawyer would use would know all those things, Dr. Steger. So I'm fine with a lawyer reviewing it. They're a national firm. I don't see an issue with the contract, to be honest. But if we want to have our lawyer review it, I'm completely fine with that.
Who made the
I
motion?
mean, I feel comfortable with it as it is,
Yeah, I
but
feel
but I do think though, it's not a bad idea, just for the sake, we're having this conversation in public, that way we can.
So Mr. Ballant and Mr. Harris made the motion in the second, so they would have to
We have to amend it.
they would have to.
Someone could amend the motion to add contingent upon
I will amend
full council's.
contingency legal review of the contract.
And I'll second that motion.
There you go.
Great discussion. Thank you.
Okay,
You have to vote on it.
all right. I'm sorry, what?
Vote on it.
Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Okay, so I'm calling the roll on the amendment and then we'll approve the amended motion. So Mr. Ballant,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Dr. James,
Aye.
Dr. Steger,
No.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye.
Okay, and now I'm going to call the roll on the amended motion. Mr. Ballant,
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger,
Oh.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. All right.
One of the things that, again, I wouldn't know this, my team back there is, they just sent it to me. So Mr. Long just said Gallup does have a student data privacy agreement that we have acquired as a district. So they do have a student data privacy agreement. So that's always good when
That's a good thing, but I want to make sure parents are acknowledging and signing off on their students being involved in something. That's part of the process.
No, this is good information for us to consider and to talk about. It's a really important subject. Okay, can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of an agreement with Jessica Brandon, school psychologist?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second for the approval of an agreement with Comprehensive Concepts in Speech and Hearing Incorporated?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. James, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Number one, we are so lucky to have so many talented students in our school district. But I would be remiss not to point out something that we were notified about. I think it was last week. Jaden Pritchett is a winner with distinction for the National Youth Arts Association for theater. He was selected out of 13,000 students nationwide. And I believe he's only one of 18. I'm looking at Mrs. Schmidt to see if I'm right.
That's what you said.
I think it's one of 18. Like, there are only so many kids that are selected for this, these high school students that are selected for this nationwide. And he will spend the first week in January in Miami, Florida, receiving coaching from like nationally renowned acting coaching. So some of the former actors and actresses that went through this program, Viola Davis, Timothy Chalamet, it's pretty impressive the names that were on this list that he is now included in. So just amazing and funny story that we learned at SAC that I wasn't aware of. The choir just came back from a trip to Disney. He serenaded Glinda at the park. And that's typical Jaden, that he would do something like that. So someone caught it on video, which was hilarious, that he was serenading a character at the park. So that's typical Jaden. Senior night for swimming and diving was last night. Great event. Thank you to all the parents of the swimming and diving community that made that a successful event. Our athletic department did a great job. OGB Holiday Store is this Monday. They just had an open house yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to see how generous our community is, you just need to take a step inside of Operation Give Back. It was amazing how many, I'll just say truckloads of toys and balls and bikes and things to take care of our community. But I was also impressed with the amount of food that they have available. So I know Mr. Lovell stopped over. I'm sure other people on our staff were able to stop over. It was amazing.
There are a little over 900 students.
Yep.
Will be
Will be
served.
served.
And in case the community didn't know, we learned on Monday at the SAC meeting also that if you wanted to bake like a batch of cookies that can be given out to a family as they're going shopping, you can sign up, click on a link and do that and drop them off for them also. So then they get holiday cookies as well.
The Sycamore Advisory Commission group is in action, the Healthier School Start Time group. We held our first in-person session to just educate the community about the research they had done. Dr. Beebe from Cincinnati Children's Hospital joined us for that session, and it was well done. And kudos to the SAC members that presented. Isla Simpson, who is a junior at our high school, presented. I think it really did tell the story of why are we pursuing this. We have a virtual session tomorrow. And then one of the things that was evident is we'll need to have some ability to have some listening sessions, some thought exchange opportunities, just because there were so many people that wanted to comment, wanted to have questions. And we just didn't plan for that in the session because everyone wants to always jump right into options. And that's a good thing. That means our community's engaged. What I did pick up from the pulse from the room is there wasn't anybody in the room that you didn't feel like understood. I think they walked away understanding the why. Now it's the how. Mr. Miller is going to be left with a lot of the how. How do we make this work with some of the parameters that we believe in? So more to come on that. We will be putting some things in front of you in the near future to address some of those things and potential options before we go back out in the community. Just a reminder that SAC had recommended, and I think we also would recommend, just based on all the work that goes into it, that's slotted for a 27-28 potential start. So I think to help keep the community calm, there's going to be lots of time for engagement and input in that process. The Altitude Awards, I know it's awfully early to be mentioning it, but May 7th, mark your calendars. We did identify the hosts today. So there will be student hosts once again. That award-winning individual may or may not be one of the hosts. Show up to find out.
What did you say it was?
May 7th. May 7th. And the last thing on my list, I just want to say congratulations again to Mr. Burson. Looking forward to working with you and getting to work with you closer now, because, I always appreciate your ability to respond and engage and take care of the needs of the office. And, we'll take care of you while you're transitioning into this new position for a time being. So whatever support you need, I can speak on behalf of the team. We're all here for you. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion and a second for the personnel consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution to request the filing of a modified tax budget for the 2026-27 fiscal year?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second.
This is in Hamilton County, they do allow us to submit a modified tax budget. It just means it's a little shorter version of the other original tax budget. But we still will, that will be coming forward at the organizational meeting as traditionally as we've done. So this is just an annual thing that we ask for.
Thank you. And you can see the resolution here on the actual agenda itself. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to approve the monthly financial report for month ended November 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Dr. Steger, for your second.
Mr. Burson is gonna handle this.
So before I get started, I would like to thank the Board of Education for your vote of confidence, and, you know, approving my interim stint, for Sycamore Schools. The last year and a half, whether I go to a webinar or a conference, I've been proud to say that I'm Sycamore's assistant treasurer, and been proud to say that I'm working underneath Mrs. Jenny Logan. Because no matter where you go, throughout the state of Ohio, if you mention Mrs. Logan, it comes with knowing that she's been a voice for public education for so long, and to fund our students appropriately. She's not going away, so I still have her until December 31st at 11:59. Utilize an average second of that. And then also I would like to say that I've gotten to know Mrs. Logan. I consider her a great friend now as well. So thank you for your confidence in me, for coaching me up, and for always giving me advice on how to approach certain situations, and even this situation now. So thank you. All right, we can go ahead and jump right into the PowerPoint. So like Mrs. Logan alluded to earlier, the October 25 forecast is still on there. That was approved on October 8th. I'm getting ready to approve, you know, we're working on that February forecast that's going to come to the board for approval. Starting in FY 27, we'll switch to the August and the February timeline for those forecast approvals. This year, there was a little bit of grace extended to October 15th for that approval, since it was something new and legislation. Just talking about our revenues. So November represents 41.6% of the fiscal year, and we're already getting close to being halfway through the fiscal year, which has been a blur. It always amazes me how fast the fiscal year moves along, and that we're already halfway through it. But we are pretty much, you know, on projections. We've already called out before with that October 2nd payment. We got a little bit more revenue from state foundation than what we were anticipating. That was a conservative estimate to begin with, but now, you know, that update will be in the February forecast update. I will make sure we get that in there and see where we land after that. The other item on here I'd like to kind of call out is you'll see the 95.8% decrease in the advances in other sources. So working with Mrs. Logan and understanding what this is and what this was we received a payment from Hamilton County, and it is in relation to that 6-year revow. So we had to revow in 2023, and coming along with that revow, and in general, the auditor's office does, you know, charge a fee for collections from all the entities that they disperse those millage, the tax collections to. And they do, if there's a portion that they haven't utilized, then they will give a certain percentage of that back, and it's once every 6 years. that falls in
Yeah.
line with what we've talked about.
Yes.
Not something totally new to me, but that is what that is. And we actually code that as a refund of prior year expenditures because it's something that we had previously expensed when we brought on the tax payments. We have to expense the auditor's fees with that. Any questions about the revenues there? Next, expenditures. So our expenditures, I know we're been a close eye on our wages. We've been on repeat about our wages, being the biggest part of our budget. And I did pull out the September through November, the increase is at 2.56%. The fiscal year over year is 3.92. We've talked about it. It kind of muddies the water a little bit having the July and August payments from that stretch pay from the teachers wrapping up from last year. But we still do believe that we're on trend for that 1.9% that's in, overall wage increase from last year. And it's what we've forecasted. And if we need, we're in the process of looking at that for February to make sure we're still in tune with that. We're still projecting an 8% increase for purchase services, although we're at 11.86 right now. That's something that we're continuing, to monitor. And, with the board adopting, the resolution for the 3.5% expenditure growth cap, we're always paying attention to that bottom right percentage growth to make sure we're in line with what the board has desired and, expressed to the community with that resolution. So right now it's at 3.28%, which falls under, and, we're hoping that aligns with a graph that Mrs. Logan shared earlier in the, even during the financial workshop of overall expenditure growth being closer to a negative growth.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the expenditures? The cash balance, we just kind of let you know where we are at the end of November, 37%. So 130 days of cash. The board does have, in policy, should be 25% of operating expenditures. It's where we like to, keep our cash balance above that. And at the end of November, we're on pace with that. And the cash position is strong. Questions?
I have a question, actually. Thank you. That was an excellent job and thank you for doing that. My question is actually going to be for Mrs. Logan and maybe for you too, Mr. Burston. But I'd like to go back to the expenditures and talk about our desire to keep ourselves within certain parameters. And I just want to hear your opinion at your last board meeting with us. So it has been discussed and proposed that, and I don't know where this is going or if it's coming back again, but it has been discussed that we may have a permanent improvement wish to with a donor who may give, a certain amount of cash, 75%, and the board would potentially match its part, or 70%, and then we do 30, or however but we maybe advance all of it. Any expense, even if we get it back, comes out, it impacts that, right? So that would be my first general question.
Yes.
And then I want to know what you have to say about our cash reserve and what we need to do with that cash reserve and why.
Okay. So first question regarding a gift agreement. So if a gift agreement is over a period of time and it's not all upfront, then your general fund, you would need to advance money, which shows up as an expenditure. So that would increase your expenditures. If by chance you have a gift agreement that is, we're going to donate 70% of this project and we're going to give you the 70% at the signing of the gift agreement, then you wouldn't have to advance anything. You would just be transferring the 30%. Where it gets tricky is with the gift agreements, if it's over a period of time and you have to advance that money and then get the money back. That's the tricky part. But if the money comes in like all at once and you don't have to use the district's cash to front the project, then that's a better situation for the district. As far as the cash position, so I believe that your cash balance policy is a sound policy. The 25% of expenditures is a sound policy. What I would encourage you to do is we heard a lot from our state legislators on how much cash you should be keeping in your reserves. I would encourage you to look at your board policy, Brad, and look at a policy that not only speaks to the minimum, but also to a maximum, which would trigger conversations, which would say, if it reaches this percentage, let's say it's, I don't know, 75% or 100%, then that would trigger conversations to say that maybe possibly the superintendent would then bring forward recommendations for the board on how you would plan to spend down that reserve. I think that would show the legislature that you are not only talking and thinking about what is that minimum cash, but how much cash should you keep on hand for the taxpayers' benefit. Because right now, what they're looking at, and your county budget commissions are looking at that excessive cash. So I would encourage you to look at not only a minimum, but a maximum that would trigger conversation and actions.
And there, the policy is Neola 6220, which is on the board agenda tonight as a second read. It does have the 25% in there. I'll pull that policy though, and we'll trigger that, go back to the policy committee, which is fine because again, we weren't looking at that till June unless you felt like it needed to happen sooner. In regard to all the conversation we're having around finances, that's fine. But just to let the board know that is 6220.
Thank you for that. I mean, I also just ask because you have mentioned in the past just to be careful of the cash reserve, not because the legislature might say it's excessive, but more to protect it so that should there be a need and we don't have enough, what we're paying for, we might want to really consider the permanent improvement as a second option because we need that money to pay our educators, our teachers, our bus drivers. Right. That's kind of in the event that we're in a shortfall.
I think the other recommendation that I would have for you is we went through all that work, Mr. Lovell, last year with Four Seasons and with Bradley Payne. Developed that very detailed capital projects plan. I believe that needs to come forward to the board for approval as well.
Okay.
To say, here is the plan. The board approves it. And then if the legislature or your county budget commission has questions, you're not only just saying, no, we have a plan on how to spend that. The board has approved the plan. So.
And we typically, Mr. Lewis might remember too, but we typically once a year will present the capital improvement plan and propose budget for the year, right? Like what's the expenditure? So we could line that up for that meeting whenever that might be. February.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion and a second to approve donations?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Thank you, Neighborhood Bridges and Ohio Educational Outreach Fund for donations to Sycamore Community Schools. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Can I please get a motion in a second to set the 2026 organizational meeting for January 7th, 2026 at 6 p.m. to be held at the Professional Learning Commons, 11120 Kenwood Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45242.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. James, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Dr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Can I vote on this if I'm not going to be here? Okay, aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. I please get a motion in a second to appoint current president as president pro tem for the organizational meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mr. Ballant. Dr. James.
Aye.
Dr. Steger.
Aye.
Mrs. Bitter.
Aye. Next item is to review the draft board meeting calendar for 2026.
So moved.
We're not voting.
I don't think we have to. We don't vote on it until actually, January.
Organization.
So just look at it. I mean, I know that, our administration has put this calendar together, and, looked for holidays, looked for any conflicts, looked for, what would be the best schedule. The only holiday that I can see would be November 11th is Veterans Day. Our meeting would be in the evening. We do have an event that morning, but it's not, it's later. Usually we, as a board and administration, we go there, but perhaps we could do something that evening to honor some veterans here who work here and just appropriate for that evening. But that was the only holiday that I saw. Does anybody have any things that worry them? Or there's one on a Thursday, I think, too.
We did our best to avoid and really look at our cultural calendar and just avoid holidays, across our community. And so one of the meetings did have to fall on a Thursday. And I think with advance notice, I just figured it wouldn't be a major issue for everybody if we had advance notice. So.
And it's an important month that we need to have two meetings. So that's why I thought that we should do it on a Thursday because we can't, in order to not conflict with two major holidays we put that.
The only thing I would add is we do have the academic retreat on here, but we don't have the financial retreat. I think it'll be important at our organizational meeting to actually set a date for the financial retreat as well. Probably like we talked about for this meeting, early February so that we can, really discuss levy options and decide which path we're going to go and if we're going to go.
I'd also like to see the board professional development retreat on here early in the year.
I would agree with it.
Can we look at dates now? Is that a better thing for us to do? Or how do you want
We
to do
have to
that?
decide, we'd have to talk to, if we're going to use Mr. Kleba, to see when he's available before
Yeah,
we do
okay.
that. So we can do that at the January meeting.
And involve our new board members in that too.
Correct.
Okay, so we're thinking a meeting in early February. That would be the board retreat for financial. So Mr. Burson, you need to kind of look at that. Or what would work for you and then coordinate.
The only other thing I would mention to the board is just something that I think we have gotten away from and we benefited from today is just maybe designating one of our meetings to be more of a work session type meeting and less of we can still have approvals on that meeting, but we really need, I think, more time for dialogue and discussion as a team. That would be a great place to talk about policy. And I think those meetings should start earlier than 7 p.m. if we're able to get here and schedule start at 5:30. And, if we don't have executive session topics, we don't need to go in. So I know that's always a challenge, but if we start earlier, we may not need an executive session, or we can tag it on the end. And be able to really get into that deep dialogue. Public still can come and be a part, but we don't have public participation and, all those regular meeting items. It's just more really for us to get into the work. And I think with this next year of all the things that we're going to be tackling, I think it might be a good thing to just give us more time to work together, but that's just something.
And I think it's something we can talk about at the organizational meeting. I completely agree. I think in the past, when we had a work session focused meeting, it did give us an opportunity to have more dialogue, more discussion on critical topics. So
maybe we can consider having, just choosing months where we have 3 meetings a month. Because if we have executive session options, we've been coming in at 5:30 almost every meeting. So I don't know if we can do it. I mean, we may be able to, we just don't know what comes about, right? So why don't we consider that?
You guys are gonna have an important process with the treasurer's search.
Yeah, so we're gonna be.
I just don't want to overburden you with meetings.
But
But those are all things we should discuss in January for sure.
if we want to do a work session, I think we really should consider doing like 3 meetings in a month, like for some months, right? Like we're gonna do a retreat, or like we're gonna do professional development. Those are gonna require months where we just have 3 meetings. Which I think is fine. Okay, well, so we'll talk about that in January.
Yep.
So everyone kind of look at your schedules. I know we've done some Saturday meetings in the past, right? Where we sometimes feel fresh in the morning at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. That's been a time where we do well too.
Where did Jenny go?
But yeah, this is gonna be a very busy January through November, through the whole year. It's gonna be very busy, all of it. Okay, all right. Okay, so the next item is the Business Advisory Council meeting. We had a meeting last week. Was it last week? Wow. Okay, would you like to give the update, or you want me to? Okay, all right, sure. So we really spent a lot of time talking about the finances of the district. So Mrs. Logan gave some really good updates. Mr. Lewis gave good updates, just explaining to the group the impacts of legislation on the finances of the district and the types of things that we are constantly having to talk about at every meeting. Because we don't always know, it's hard to plan when you don't know what the legislation is going to be. So we plan with always having to have some kind of contingency plan as a backup. And so we explained that. And I think many of the members were not aware of that. So we asked them, looking forward for financing our district, we need them to help us be advocates for our community and for public education. And we just needed to inform them of that. And I think they had a lot of good questions, They wanted to know, how will we fund the district if we do X, Y, and Z? And Mr. Lewis and Mrs. Logan were able to answer those questions. So that was great. And then those were the main areas, I think. Getting more, we would like to do something in the spring with students, getting them more exposure to the businesses that exist in our community. And then getting some students some more experiences and basically vice versa. So that's the point of the Business Advisory Council. So it was a good meeting. Anything?
No, I think you got it.
All right, great. Okay. Oh yeah, it was a spring expo. That's what we said. Maybe there's going to be a spring expo either at the junior high or the high school. Everyone in the group pretty much said it doesn't really matter which, it could be either one. It was more about the message is what matters the most. That was what their key takeaway.
That's in partnership with the Montgomery Chamber of Commerce.
That's right. Yep. Okay. And we had a SAC meeting. So give me an update for that.
We had a SAC meeting on Monday, this past Monday, and acknowledged Dr. Steger and thanked her, appreciate and contributions to SAC. And the highlight was Mr. Burson making a presentation on the finances of the district. It was well received and we had really good questions.
I would second that, yeah.
Yeah,
A great dialogue.
really good dialogue, and I think people are willing to help us with the levy. They said, give us some talking points. Wanted to know why we weren't just automatically saying that we would be doing an income, earned income tax levy. So we told them we're still working on what type of levy we would be putting before the community. But thank you very much for your presentation.
And I also think it was helpful for everyone to understand that the nice to haves, like that we would like to fund, are a different thing than what we absolutely need to pay for. Because while we would all love to have everything possible, we do have to stay within the budget. I think that was a little bit of a shock to people that some of these things were even being discussed, because I think people just assumed with the baseball, softball, that it was just, oh, it's automatic, and it's not actually discussions with board and donors and things like that. So thank you for clarifying that also at the meeting for people.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important moving forward to continue to engage with those two board committees, because they have so many members who are so active in the community, and they had a lot of really good questions. I'm sure it sounds like your group did too. So getting them to really help us and speaking to community members and to their circles is going to be important. So I think our administrators are going to need to connect with those members of those teams as well. Oh, all right, legislative update.
I think we talked a lot about this before. These are on the governor's desk. He may or may not sign them. We'll see what happens here. Again, some of the things they're looking at is the constitutional amendment to get rid of property taxes. Kind of cutting off the nose to spite your face, but let me move on. We definitely need some tax relief. I think people do agree with that, doing tax relief. I don't think anybody's opposed to that. I think cutting property taxes may go a bit far in doing that. Limiting the optional schools that for levies, if there are 20 mills already. Expand the county budget commissions to look into districts that have excessive cash and avoid excessive collections. And Ms. Logan already mentioned about limiting the inside millage cap to 3% from the 4.6 that we're getting right now. So those are all things, and capping cash balances. So those are all things that are in the legislature at some point in the legislature, could be signed, may not be signed. We'll see what happens. So it's Wednesday. It could change tomorrow. But I think the General Assembly is out of session until, I think, the end of the month, maybe.
I think so too. I don't think they're coming back until after the holiday.
That's after the holidays. Okay, so that's it.
Okay, I feel like we had something for under other board business. And I feel like I wrote you and let you know what that was.
Might have been the committees.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yes.
We
Have to step in.
I wrote to say, I didn't write this down on my piece of paper right here. Sorry, everybody. Here it is. I know it is. Okay, so yes, we need to get, Mrs. Logan is going to share with everyone the committee's description of all of our board committees and liaison positions. So just everyone look at it. I know you've been looking for it. I know it exists.
It does.
He received it.
It exists.
Looked through my emails, I couldn't find it either.
Yes.
I don't know if you printed it. I don't know, maybe you sent it in a
Yeah, it does
Google.
exist. I've seen it.
It's
Yes.
somewhere like a Google document, maybe.
Find
I
it.
realize maybe that's where it is. But I did want to bring up this as well, and I know I let our administration know this. We have an opportunity as a board to do an Ohio School Board Association. It's called Levy University webinar, which is on January 9th. So I think if you go on Ohio School Board Association, they have it. It costs money. It's like $130 to take it. And I think it's like all day. But that's something that maybe we should consider having a couple of board members do. just so we do it, right? And then the other thing I would like, because I want to make sure that, and this is something to ask our administrators, I would like to get some kind of updated training from our board council on what we can and cannot do. Being at the conference, that was one of the things they said, be very, very clear and careful and get that guidance early on. So I don't know if that's how we do that. If it's a board meeting, like that's another one that we have to do.
Can or cannot do with levy?
Like do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts, like they give you your legal guidance, because we will need to absolutely only use facts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to be very, very careful about. And they suggested that you bring your board counsel in to train your whole team.
I know Bricker had, that's one of the sessions I went to. Bricker had a presentation on this, so they would already have this material.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's something that we can ask, or Aaron.
It's usually,
Yeah, or Dave, we could find out how to do that. But I mean, I think
she's younger, very.
that would be something to organize.
I agree.
But could our board also consider establishing, when we're looking at the committees, establishing a finance committee? I don't know how we go about that. We certainly need some guidelines, et cetera, but we can talk about it later on, for sure.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I would like to have some
Consider that.
discussion on that.
I'm happy to have a discussion on it. I mean, I think they did talk a little bit about that at the OSBA. And is it possible that that's related to the levy?
I would say no.
And is that like, I guess,
That would be I'm thinking it would be an ongoing committee,
right.
just like.
is it like
SAC.
overseeing the treasurer? Is that why?
No, not necessarily overseeing the treasurer, but just being another group of people who are looking at our finances and giving us advice.
Logan, you've had financial committees and districts you've worked for in the past. Like, can you just give us a brief kind of what their role is?
I have, and I'll tell you when they were successful for me, in my experience. In my experience, when they were successful, we had a representative from both unions. So here it would be SEA and OPSI. They would appoint someone to sit on that committee. Administrators, 2 board members. We also ask our townships or municipalities if they wanted to have a representative join that group. And then we had community members who had a financial background that were interested in being on that committee. And it was an advisory committee, and this is where your legal counsel will have to help you with this, whether it's a board committee or whether it would be an administrative advisory committee. I used it as an administrative advisory committee, but it was a great committee structure. We all learned from each other. It was kind of one of those committees that was a sounding board to look at the budget, to look at the financial parameters. They would ask really good questions. They helped us figure out how to communicate with the community, like what financial pieces of information should you be talking about to the community. So I've had them work really well. It's just like any other committee. It's having the right structure, making sure they understand their purpose, and, working with that group in the right way. But they can be successful, and it can be a really good advisory committee to the board and to administration.
So the first question would be if it's advisory or if it's committee.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like if it's advisory, then Mr. Burson would be leading it up, right? Yeah. All right. Good. Hey, meeting is adjourned.
Nope.
Oh, executive.
Oh, that's right. Gosh, thank you. Meeting is not. Can I please get a motion, a second, to enter into executive session to consider the employment, compensation, dismissal, or discipline of a public employee per Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1?
Moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ballant, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. Harris, for your second. Mrs. Logan, please call the roll.
Mr. Ballant?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Dr. James?
Aye.
Dr. Steger? And Mrs. Bitter?
Aye. We will enter into executive session and we will not enter back into public session and we will not be taking a vote. Yes.